goes, talking about our career matches, learning styles, things like that. I was very pleased with our turnout. We had 202 out of 204 students come in on that Monday and complete their student-led conferences. The rest of the students were still held accountable to do it. They just picked an adult within the school that they wanted to do their presentation to. So every single student still had to make their presentation and talk to an adult about their goals, their careers, their interests, and things like that. And we have completed all of that. So all of our students have done that, which is great. They enjoyed it, getting to have the conversation. And for those who picked an adult within the building, some of them picked adults that aren't actually their teachers. Maybe it's a pair who they have or a secretary, but they were able to have an adult in their corner knowing what their goals are. So the adult can help hold them accountable. Like, hey, remember when you talked to me about, this, how are you doing with that goal? What can I help you with? So it was good conversations. We had the opportunity to participate in Reality U for my 8th graders, and they all loved it. They were like, I have to be married, I have to carry this baby around, like all the things as they were trying to come pay their bills. But they were kind and they were polite and they worked well with the partner they were matched with. They had good conversations and, kind of realized, oh, I do have to pay for those student loans, or I probably shouldn't get that fancy car when I'm, in my residency at 26, things like that. So it was just nice to be able to be a part of it. So I look forward to getting to do that again. My daughter, who's an 8th grader, she was talking to my 7th grade son about it. He's like, that sounds like a lot of fun. I really hope I get to do that. So like the kids talked and they were getting interest from other kids. So I hope it continues. Snow days, we had to move our county spelling bee. So our 2 participants will go this Thursday to compete at Perry. So hopefully we get a champion. They're 2 strong kids, so I think they should do well. Other than that, we'll have track practice starting. We are wrapping up Knowledge Bowl. Last league meet was today in Holton. Tomorrow they'll go to Royal Valley for league. Then we get a smidge of a little break time at the middle school until we start track. We'll have track signups on the 10th, and then practice will start on the 24th. Any questions?
I do have one question about the 8th graders coming up here. To be real honest, I thought that was going to be real squirrely. When they went down there observing that, you thought that they really enjoyed it and all that, because it surprised the heck out of me on how
the 8th grade group that's coming up is a really good group.
Might have been the best of the 3 as far as like buy-in.
I was also there, so maybe they're like, oh, this
felt when they got back down to normal. It was a really cool thing. They did a great job.
And I will add, you said that the students talked about it. Parents were talking about it too for several days after. They loved hearing from the kids about it. And I think it was awesome. It was a good experience for all, us included.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. You can see our enrollment numbers have stayed pretty steady. We did gain 1 junior, so we're up 1 this month. IPSs were conducted as well as our mock interviews, and mock interviews went really well again. We worked on thank you cards today to send out for those, but I think we only had 1 mock interview that we had to reschedule. Our IPSs, like the middle school, every student will be required to do their presentation, though we try to make it to the parents. So whether they present it to a teacher and then the parent has to view it on video and send back a reply that they've done it, we really want that parent input, especially as they're getting closer and closer to leaving here. And what is that plan going to be? I can echo the same thing on the Reality U. Wasn't sure how it would go first year doing it, but I had several emails from parents after the fact of that their child had come home talking about it, and just the experience and the buy-in with it. I even approached Dr. Seal beforehand. I'm like, okay, this matchup thing with the marriages, I'm a little skeptical about that. And they went well. And kids that you wouldn't have thought would work well together did, but one of them he was being funny, but I think he was also serious. He's like, okay, I'm really going to think about who I'm going to marry because my wife yelled at me the whole time we did this. Was like, that may be reality. So
married life.
It's like not a bad thing to be thinking about. we're approaching the end of the third quarter, and that end of the third quarter is a half day. And on the 14th that morning, SAD is working on some events of spring into safety days and some things for students to think about of just making decisions as the spring weather hits about buckling up, about making good choices when you're running around with your friends. I don't know if you know Joe White out of Topeka. He was a young man when he was in high school that was with a group of friends and decided to jump out of a moving car and ended up with a traumatic brain injury and totally changed the rest of his life. So he's going to come share his story. I'm going to try to have the seatbelt convincer and some KHP here just to talk with students about good choices. Have someone from law enforcement talk about what do you do if you get pulled over or you get in an accident, and what's the appropriate response and how do you deal with next steps and those things. So they're going to have those conversations with them. We're also going to have a pep assembly that morning and celebrate some of our successes and the upcoming spring sports, give those students some recognition. So that will be a different schedule that morning. And so because of that, that Monday will be an even block day so that the times are even throughout the week. And then with our special events on Friday. Getting ready for our Kansas assessments, and those will start after spring break, and you can kind of see the different subjects in the weeks that we'll work on those. And then April 4th, SAD wanted to have this young lady on March 14th, but it didn't work. But Miss Kansas is going to come and speak and talk about domestic violence and some other just making good choices things. And I think she's also going to go to the elementary school and do a presentation for them with at their level of, you know, for their things. Yeah. So fortunate to be able to bring her out. Staffing needs right now, we are working with Keystone to look for a special education teacher for next year for one of our positions. And then I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Colson, who has stepped in and done a great job stepping in January in the middle of a program, making things work. He took students to our district FBLA. We had students that qualify for state. He's still waiting on a couple of results that are supposed to be coming in, but I'm very excited that he's ready to move that program forward. He's submitted his pathway for CTE. So lots of things in a short amount of time have rolled across his plate, and he's handling them well. Wanted to recognize Mr. Stapp wasn't able to attend tonight, and so we're very proud to recognize our state wrestlers. We had 6 go, and we had 2 wrestling in the championship match. Sophie Waters ended up second, and Osiris Unruh ended up second. Osiris had an undefeated season up until that match and lost by 1 point in overtime. So what a tremendous
He's a junior, right?
experience.
That's
Yeah.
exciting. He has a whole other year there.
And then Paige Vetch qualified, got a 4th place medal, and then our other 3 qualified, all won at least one
That's amazing.
match. So it was exciting. Then today we learned that the journalism group, who Miss Sage affectionately calls her JERDS, finished first in regionals. We had 16 state qualifiers and 42 events, and with top 6 places. So I'm not sure all the layouts of all that. She's still getting all the details in, but that's exciting. I don't know if we've been, it's 3A, 4A combined.
Oh,
Yeah, the
Good
journalism
place for
program
there,
is
so.
amazing.
So
Really is.
rocking it there. So shout out to her also. Questions?
I thought the conferences were really good. My first experience.
Yes.
That, we got to meet with Laughlin and he had some really good advice, which I wouldn't think about as a freshman parent. So I thought they went really well too.
And new to us this year, we use the Zello electronic portfolio. So that will get better and better. I sat in on a couple and I'm like, okay, there's some tweaks we can do, some things we can do. As they become more familiar with the program, they'll make it more their own. So.
To elaborate on her, they also had the 8th grade students going into 9th grade parent night that Mrs. Jensen put on. I thought that was very good. There's 3 8th grade parents here. I thought she did a wonderful job. That's a lot of information,
It is a lot of information.
but I thought she did it well. I mean, it was done pretty well. I mean, I don't know how you can do it any better. And she's individually meeting with the students.
She'll start with group meetings with the 8th graders, and as they start to get their schedules, then she'll go back down, but then she meets with every kid in the high school to look at their schedule for next fall.
Think about when you went to 8th grade to 9th grade.
No one did.
Just walk through the door.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the day before. It was like an hour
Terrified.
going.
yeah, so it was, you know, for all the students that are a little nervous, I thought it was pretty good ease into it.
Good.
Anybody else?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keystone.
Real quick, if we talk about the reality you thing, if highly encourage and will help in any way, shape or form to bring that back. It was such a positive experience. I get we're all busy, but if we do have that again next year or the next time, I would highly encourage taking that in. The kids will blow your mind
And
with,
volunteer at it.
The
It was very
experience.
entertaining and impactful.
and I'm
Believe it
gonna
or
be
not, it
real
was.
honest, driving over here. I was not expecting it to add value to my life. Just because I was in high school once, you know how they act, we've got kids or whatever, but I couldn't have been more wrong. So if you do get the opportunity, everyone putting on will be thrilled to have more volunteers, but you will walk away from it
Yes.
very satisfied, I promise.
Yeah, and listening to
was
that
the-
man's story was also impactful. He's got a really amazing story. So it was worthwhile for sure.
Something we put it on the calendar.
All right, Keystone, you guys get a whole packet this week. I'm not gonna read through the front page, but I did want to show you the vacancy report. I think we may be down a para. Did I hear that right now? Are we short a para somewhere? Or going to be?
I'm at least 1, possibly 2.
Ooh, so our record is ending, but, there's that.
Wasted a month.
I know. It lasted a couple months.
Alright.
But I wanna highlight the certified vacancy listing. Mrs. Frakes was just talking about the need for a special education teacher at the high school. You can see that we need 4. The reason that number looks scarier than it is because right now those positions are all filled, but they're filled with long-term subs. So that they will relist that position every year in hopes that we can find somebody certified to take that position, and long-term subs are only used in the event that we cannot find somebody certified to fill it. So that's why that number looks kind of scary. And then I was gonna talk to you about JDLA a little bit. I gave you a list of everybody they've contacted. But it is short one property because he just toured a campground in Billtown, I think a week or 2 ago, that is actually looking like a viable option. So there's a good chance that the JDLA students will spend at least a semester over there next year. It's got a lot of outdoor space and some indoor rec space, and it's already set up with classrooms. In the event that that does not happen, the last page is the cover letter that kind of goes over exactly what they require to place JDLA somewhere. So in the event that anything falls through, this is what they're looking for. If you know something, please let us know. They are in the process of getting ready to start sending out bids for the new building in Oskaloosa. If you know of a contractor that is interested in helping or would be interested in working, let me know. They're trying to send out to everybody who's local in our districts, so holler if you think of anyone. I think I covered it, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more about the lease agreement. Here in a little bit. Any questions for me? I like it.
Let's move on to board agenda items, efficiency audit report.
So you have this thick document, and we're not gonna go through it all. But last November, if you wanna start working your way to, they're not very well numbered. But in the middle, or about quarter of the way in, you'll see this page. We'll start with the page after that. The first part of it just talks about the companies. And Millig is a design build company out of Kansas City. specializes in efficiency audits. So last, I would say November, they sent architectural engineers, structural, mechanical, electrical. They had about 6 different engineers. And they went through all 4 of our facilities. So elementary, middle, high school, and Ozaki. And what they were looking at was our HVAC systems, our electrical panels, our electrical, usage, just everything mechanical. They went through and then they've been working on this, and we received this report about 2 weeks ago. Matt sat in on it. Tim Roberts sat in on it. But anyway, just another view, a really in-depth look at where we stand with our major facilities. They didn't spend really time at, football, they were just looking at our major buildings. If you look at that page, it's actually page 11, but it's not numbered. It looks like this. It's just really kind of a overall broad problem statement that they looked at. Some of this won't be a surprise, but it gets really into detail throughout it. But aging systems, comfort issues, significant amount of all electrical heating, large number of individual pieces of equipment, P-tax, and Matt, I may have to rely on you for acronym it, but we'll get to it. You'll actually get to see some pictures here. I'm more of a picture guy. High energy usage and annual operating costs at the high school. Even though this is the newest building in the district, it has the highest electrical usage per square footage. It'll kind of talk a little bit about that. Code compliance issues, mainly the elementary and the middle school. There's really no ventilation. I mean, so things are mounted on the inside of a wall and run, but like the high school, it pulls in fresh air and exchanges. Elementary and middle have a lot of just, non-vital, they just continue to breathe the same air all day long. But we'll visit no cooling systems, we know, in the 2 gyms at the elementary and middle school. And then lack of remote access and control the system operation at the elementary and middle school just because they're so old. At the high school, Tim Roberts can sit down in the morning and look on the computer and tell you what each classroom and temperatures, but we don't have any of that at the elementary or middle. Matt, feel free to jump in whenever. If you go to the second page, you can kind of see a layout of the high school, and it's kind of color coded. This being the newer building, predominantly those are rooftop units. The green is we just did a year ago, the gymnasium. You can see the kitchen. That's an original 30-year-old with a lot of issues. But it's the reason it's set kind of aside is kitchens. They have to pull in a lot, with all the cooking and everything. So other things have been updated, but that one hasn't. There's just a few pictures. We're not going to go into detail. We'll talk about what our plans with this. But there's just some pictures that kind of share a little bit of the high school.
Before we get too far, on that page there, with the ventilation, that's an example of what's going on. The ventilation, the units, the CFM that is producing air that it's pulling out, we're producing more than we're pulling out.
And
It's just
Wait till you get to the middle school page.
it's airflow.
Okay.
This one's.
And if
But you could, go keep it.
well, if you remember this over Christmas break, and if you saw a crane that was here at the high school, they had to go and individually lift every unit on the high school up, rebuild the curbing, set them back down because we have issues with, we're pushing a lot of our energy. We're heating and cooling the outside. So that was one big project we had over Christmas break. They came in and lifted every unit up and tried to rebuild all of that to try to eliminate and alleviate some of that. But you can also see the kitchen unit, it's 30 years old. Going to the middle school, which is actually page number 15, you can look at that and just think, how do we maintain all of those different colors?
It's really colorful.
How many of them got burned off?
So the blue area, it just, we've got from rooftop units to gas to the aging, same thing with the kitchen. An old exhaust hood that's just not turning a lot of, we don't, we could probably look and see how old that thing is, but it's just old. But anyway, that just kind of gives you an idea of the different types of heating systems we have at the middle school. But if you look at the next page and you can see those wall units, those are the things that we have challenges with. And the same thing at the elementary, we're heating and air. Now our guys have tried to cut holes in the wall to pull in, but predominantly where our kids are and our teachers, it's just a lot of not fresh air. And that's an issue at the middle school.
And you can see that some of them are mini splits. There's P-TAC. Those are what you have in like a hotel.
Yeah.
How old are those mini splits? Are they relatively new or? I mean, I don't, it's just ballpark.
It's from 5 years to maybe 25, 30. It's just every time they go bad, we try to replace it with something. And you can see some of them just, they'll have a dial, and some of them, they'll try to put a new electrical panel on it when they convert it to where you can read the numbers. But those are basically like you would see in a hotel room.
And I'm not going to try to pretend to know everything about it, but typically mini splits really struggle with temperatures when they get really cold. And we've had a couple of those weeks. So I was just curious if they were, are they keeping up or
no?
Yeah.
I mean, there's always, so at the maintenance building, we have a pretty good collection of ones that when it's really cold, they sit in there and work on rewiring them and fixing them to replace the next one. They actually, I think, took an old one, fixed it up, and it's in the press box. Just, we have so many of them laying around, but they get to the point where, and then if you look on page 17, you can see the exhaust in the kitchen there at the middle school. And then the one in the middle, that's actually, it's a mini split heat pump that we try to use in the middle school locker rooms just to provide air because the old one doesn't work. But that's, again, one of those you can imagine in a locker room, it has no ventilation. So it's just circulating. So,
Locker room air.
yeah, locker room air. And then the elementary, you look at that and you think, okay, but most of that are those wall P-TAC units.
Mm-hmm.
There are some in the blue areas that have rooftop, but a lot of that area are just those window, those wall units. You can see on that next page where, some of them, you can even see they used a Sharpie to mark here. This is where to get the most efficient, you just turn this dial to here and this dial to here, and that's where but anyway, There's a lot more to this, that we don't have time to go through tonight. But if you flip back after you get the pictures and the efficiency studies, there's really two recommendations that they gave just as an initial, but then it would take more time, bring them in to walk through it. One of them is a page that looks like this. And it's potential ESPC project. One of their recommendations is without a large amount of money, you could find some energy savings by doing some things at the high school, the middle school. Most of it's because they also did electrical, going to LED lighting, putting some solar panels on some of the buildings to help offset some of what the electricity's pulling in, fixing the ventilation at the high school, because that thing just runs 24/7. But what they're looking at is about anywhere from $660,000 to $900,000 of stuff that we could do, and they call this kind of a budget neutral. But it's kind of like if you think about a lease purchase, it's one of those where they would guarantee us an annual savings on electricity, and then we would get financed over a 10 to 12 year period to do approximately $900,000 of upgrades. Doesn't solve, you know, we're up to about 230,000 a year right now fixing things. This can help us with some electrical energy usage. That's one option. If you go to this page, this is kind of a long-term bid, kind of what you're looking at dealing with between $3.5 to $5 million of just all the energy, the HVAC systems, the electrical, all of that. Obviously, that's for future consideration. We're going to talk here in a little bit about one of our strategies for the facilities goal was to have a facilities planning committee. We've got a suggestion for that team. My recommendation is people that know this type stuff, we hand this report off to a facilities planning, and they can sit there and look at this. They can look at other studies we've done, but there's just a lot of electrical, mechanical in this. The company Millig, they will come out and meet with either this board to go through a very in-depth, or they will sit down and go through all of this with the facilities planning committee, possibly let them kind of absorb, well, what does this mean? And whether or not we would want to consider maybe this summer or sometime looking at, okay, well, if we can save in the future $68,000 a year, and they will guarantee if you don't save it, they'll pay it, the difference, but kind of a budget neutral, let that group go through, listen to them, and then maybe come back to the board and say, hey, here's some options you have.
But they promise us a number of savings and we don't get that savings, they pay it. Is that what you just said?
They cover the difference.
I just want to make sure I wasn't crazy.
They did have a case.
Like,
They did have a case somewhere, I don't remember where it was, where they showed out.
Or they were the ones that messed up the estimates.
yeah.
And it cost them a couple $100,000. But there are companies out, so if that was the case and the board decided to go that route, we would put it out for a request for proposal and they would bid it. I mean, we don't just go pick them. They would bid it, just like Train They have efficiency, so we'd have to put it out. And all of those groups would cover. So we take the loan and instead of paying the utility, we pay the loan. We actually have one of those right now. This is our last year to pay it off, and it was 15 to 18 years ago. It was for technology, it was for some lighting, it was that we used 1 mil out of our 8 mil capital outlay. We dedicated 1 mil over a long period of time, and we actually paid that. So this is a similar. The difference with that one and this one is to offset the utilities, and you put that money. The capital outlay one we did was just to get money up front. So this is similar, but a little different.
On the second suggestion, what the items highlighted in yellow, what's the?
You can pick from those.
Yes.
Okay,
So like, EEM 7, there's a 2A, a 2B, or a 2C. The total down here is if you took the expensive one out of the options. So the yellows, you would pick one of those 3.
Got it.
And then you would add the total up. So good question.
So here's what I took from it. Variable speed fans for the exhaust. You know, we either have them on or off. The energy savings there, LED lights, solar panels, which I'm not, you know, on that. And it was pretty much the same the whole way through. You know, the elementary school, I believe it was the elementary school, that was the one that was spot on the what it should be using, and the reason it's doing that is because there's no ventilation. I believe that's which one it was.
But the middle school, same way.
Yeah, the only reason they're efficient is because we don't have
it.
we don't have any ventilation. But my concern is these numbers are in a perfect world. You know, you're gonna have to replace a light, you know, but like their solar panels was where and they were gonna look into it more, you know. Hail comes through and knocks out those solar panels. I mean, I've had 2 roofs on my house in the last 10 years, and I live right up the hill. So, you know, there's concerns there, but it's an eye opener. You know, who knew that we had serious ventilation problems? And in fact, there's some code issues that we have.
Yeah.
But my new favorite saying is budget neutral. I like that one. Keep using that. But they were a great group. And if they come back and you have time, you know, I know that morning can be hectic, but if you have time, they're an interesting group to listen to, and they're more than willing to answer any questions. And like I said, the solar panels, they were gonna come, you know, they were gonna talk it over with their group, see how that does work.
If the hail damages.
She said she's still gonna get you that information.
But I mean, like I say, so much of it can be done outside of a bond if we have to. So it's something to look into.
I mean, I agree, but can it though really, like, we're looking at $1 million to put a Band-Aid on it versus the potential of, as of when this was done, close to $5 million to do it right.
Well, so what they were saying, because we asked about if we were to get one, they suggested that you pull the problems you have out of what you're trying to do, because you can finance this in the savings. It's budget neutral. You know, the savings would be budget neutral. So instead of trying to throw that in the bond, because I asked if we do this, we get a bond and pay it off. You said, well, I would suggest not to. It's working for you.
Paying itself off.
They're the salesman now.
They're no advocate over
You know,
here.
so
Right.
you gotta
Looking
kind
at
of look
this.
through that. That's where,
We look at the Band-Aid option, which is budget neutral.
yeah.
What happens if we spend that up to $1 million? Could be more, could be less, depending on timing. 3-4 years later, here we are again, and this 4.9 million is 6.5 million or whatever, because we've just spent $1 million.
The budget neutral, if you look at that, it was really, these are some things that you could do to save on energy.
Right.
Solar panels, switching out certain units, but it doesn't address, other than the kitchen at the high school, to get that fixed to where it's not running constantly, but mostly it's solar panels and LED lights, which sucks a lot of, that didn't lead into that.
Well,
Uses a lot of
I get it.
energy.
We have, it's just like our homes, like we have to use the funds we have available to be able to, and sometimes you just have to get by.
And these are like I said, once again, this is perfect world
Of course.
number.
I just,
That's the one thing that,
I wanted to point out that like there is a chance that we put Band-Aids on this stuff and a couple of years later, here we are having to, that money just bought us a couple of years and
Keep it in
I
mind.
just wanted to make sure everybody was thinking.
Oh, yeah.
that
It does,
way because-
the budget neutral does not address individual wall units, ventilation, old units. It's a way to save utilities and upgrade lighting, use some solar panels to offset some, fix the high school kitchen area. But it doesn't address the 4.5 to
Doesn't
5
help with
million.
classroom space.
I just
doesn't
think
help
after
with
looking at this, we're looking at. We gotta obviously make decisions without any assumption that a bond is ever gonna happen. I mean,
Keep getting property tax.
but responsible thinking, I mean, we do have to realize like anything we throw on it that's not actually fixing it is. Probably gonna end up being money that goes to waste at some point in time, but. I mean, we all do that in our day-to-day life when we don't have the money to do it the way we want, but. Something to think about.
Yeah.
So the next steps would be that we would hand this report off to a facilities group, and then invite this company to come spend time with them, just really getting in to the nuts and bolts of it.
moving on. Anybody got anything else? Next fun one would be middle school engineering report.
Keep them coming.
Okay, so this is this document, just the brief summary. So I had met with, I think we all, or most of us know, Barry White from 5 Star Masonry. He had come and looked a few times at the middle school, specifically Chad Jackson and Rose Shank's rooms. We do have some issues on the other mirrored side, at the other side of the buildings, but not to this degree. I had asked Barry, and Barry was at our facilities special meeting. And I'd asked him, do you work, because he builds hospitals, he'd be someone to check with the JDLA, the Keystone.
Yeah.
So he reached out to an engineering group that he's familiar with. This is a group out of Topeka. They brought a team and they went in and looked. And at the bottom of the front page, under recommendations, basically the foundation around the outside is level. It's the floors that are 1.5 inches, some areas 2 inches higher than the foundation, because they don't believe when that facility was built, whether or not they did the appropriate where you tear out, their recommendation, the only way to fix it is to take the wall out in between open up one wall and come in and dig both of them floors out down 2 feet 9 inches. That's a lot to haul out. And then backfill it with a heavy aggregate packed in, and then redo the floors and then put the wall back. Because it's, in addition, again, without anything else, they're like, you're gonna have to install a French type drain all the way from the backside of the middle school, in between the high school and middle school, and all the way back around to divert water that comes down and exacerbates, because in Haley Dean's office, which is at the back of the gym, but even worse, the band room, music room, if you look at the walls, it's wicking, absorbing water up that wall to where it's starting to, you just keep painting over it, but it's starting to flake. So obviously that's not, in the meantime, they're on the second page, they're recommending to look at the drawings in that wall in between Mrs. Shank and Mr. Jackson. It's a cinder block wall. Cut the top layer of the cinder blocks out and then fill it back with an adjustable, because when that floor goes up and it pushes that cinder block wall is going up, the hallway is sturdy, so the only relief is the outside wall. So it's pushing, so temporarily take the pressure off that outside wall and then come back, and you can see in the drawings where those roof trusses go across the wall and then they set on top of that outside wall. A lot of those have popped the cinder block face off of it. So come back with some C-shaped channels and bolt the concrete, the truss, all that system together to keep that wall. But that is, Barry recommended that he could do the temporary thing for the district, but probably couldn't get to it till this summer.
This is the adjustable part. The pictures we're seeing is the temporary.
The temporary. Now they recommend at the time that you do this, you're gonna have to have field surveys and engineer drawings at that time. They were just engineers that came in and said, now, if we were to bid it, we would have to do field surveys, we'd have to come in and do, soil samples, we'd have to do drawings that got submitted, but we're just telling you that's what we recommend. From their professional opinion, you're gonna have to do.
You say this is temporary. What's permanent? What's the permanent?
Permanent is go in, take the wall completely out, dig up the floor in both those classrooms down 2 feet 9 inches, refill it with.
So this will get us by until we have a long-term.
It's something that it's a way to take some relief off the wall. It doesn't fix the problem. But if you let it stay, it's just gonna, so.
Once again, thank you to Barry for
Yes.
definitely helping with that.
What we will most likely do is I will circle back with Barry, and start working on a proposal to take the relief off that outside wall and see at what point you could, get us on the schedule.
Will he send us a estimate at some point?
Yes.
Okay.
And if it's, I mean, if it's over 20,000, then we'll have to put it out for bid. But I was kind of hoping we could, I told him all of Will's, but, you know,
I have
Where
Canadian
can we
boys.
help?
I mean, we can get people together to help.
Yeah.
But yes, if it's kind of like doing the concrete for the middle school drop off. It wasn't over 2,000, but we had a couple concrete companies and they were within $1,000 of each other. So we thought that, you know.
Good times.
Next is facilities planning committee.
So you have a copy of just the recommendations. The facilities planning committee, their task would be to let's look at everything we have, whatever we know up to this point, start prioritizing, you know, what do we need to know more? And so when we looked at it, we thought, well, let's find people that know construction, know facilities. So if you look on there, we've got Andy Surratt from RNS Maintenance, Barry White from 5 Star Masonry, Charlie Oakes from Mammoth Sports Construction, Justice Mullenkamp from Chuck's Heating and Air. He probably knows our HVAC systems better because he's been on our roofs all winter long. Tim Mooresdorf from M&M Service, electrical here in town. He is also worked side by side with Justice on a lot of our HVAC systems. Adam Pedish, he was on the original and he kind of gets facilities. Lance Bradley, he's the head maintenance director for the Seaman School District and an alumni here. Would love to, that'd be another maintenance directors, Lynn's from a larger district. Then obviously I'd need to be on it. Matt knows a little bit with his job. And then Tim Roberts. So we want to keep it small enough to where we can just sit down around a table and really go through stuff. And then also it could be a group that can answer questions for the board. We could spend a lot of hours as a board really going through things. And then we'd say, well, why don't we call one of these people that know HVAC, that know concrete, that know facilities. So all of them right now have agreed. Yeah, I'd be happy to serve on something to. The main thing would be, let's just start looking at everything that we know about our facilities and really coming up with some estimates, some prioritizing, some really, what does the board need? That can be a group that we can refer to. Thoughts or questions on that?
Yeah, that looks like a great group to me.
After it gets going, I'd like to see it 2 or 3 meetings in, couple meetings in, present to the community what has been found, not just like, okay, this is what we found over the whole year, just
Ease into it.
keep it, yeah, keep it as a, keep it going. Cause after this last bond, everybody knows that we have issues.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, everybody Northeast Kansas, but I think if we were to be able to overwhelm people, but educate them, small bits at a time.
You mean separate from a board meeting? Or you
Yes.
like formally invite them to a board meeting?
No, so I think it needs to be separate than a board meeting. I think it just needs to be a meeting where these guys sit here. People sit there and we talk about what we think. It doesn't do a large group of people to grill us on air conditioning.
Yeah.
Cause we don't,
I don't know anything about air
Right.
conditioning.
I know Chuck Seating and Harris here a lot, yeah.
I think those folks should know that would be an expectation of them though, because that could change things if they're gonna get in front of the firing squad.
Well,
But it
haven't
doesn't,
they
but it
already,
doesn't need to be a fire.
they were
Well,
already all on it. weren't
It's
they?
never needed to be.
No,
Just
I think
those
all of them.
people should know if we're gonna expect them to stand in front of people and answer their questions, they should know that that is gonna be an ask if we ask it, because not everybody wants that. Every one of the people on that list can handle that, but I do think if we are gonna create that expectation, they
Well, they're
should
on the committee, so
understand that ask,
that's
because
the committee then, that's fair.
what we think is standard operating procedure always a lot. So they should just know if we are gonna ever ask them that, yeah, that would be part of the act. I mean, they, in all fairness, for their time and service.
But we gotta figure out how to get,
I agree with you.
Oh, yeah, we have to.
I agree.
Information
I
sharing.
do wonder if we couldn't do a couple of board meetings too, where we say,
We-
hey, we're talking about this, please come.
because. Well, it's obvious, so
And with
there's
more
so much stuff in this
control.
place that we don't know,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
for
so.
sure. But for protection of these guys, I don't know, board
Yeah.
meeting might be a more formal, more controlled.
Yeah.
environment.
And it, yeah, it
To
could be
start
that
with.
they're just in the audience or something, but somehow we gotta get it out,
Yeah, I
Yes,
totally agree.
absolutely.
you know, I don't,
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that is an item, so we give it,
We need to approve that committee.
as presented.
Aaron's on
I motion to approve the facilities committee as presented.
it. Second.
All in favor? 7-0.
You want to do some second? You can.
Sharon with the wise time.
No, you do the second.
A lot of handouts tonight, apologize for that, but I didn't want you to have to spend all night pulling it up on.
Staff recruitment and retention.
So
I thought that was a great meeting.
it was, you know, it's just so. It's enjoyable for me to walk around and listen to all of it, and it's just really nice. So thanks to everybody. And again, we will talk later. We have one more left, and that's on student success and preparation. And we hope we have another really good crowd. But anyway, so I took all of them, kind of summarized it, still kind of working. I mean, there were a lot of things that I think we could condense in a little, but this is just the first glimpse at it. Provide competitive salary and benefits package for all certified and classified. Build a connection with post-secondary education programs for teacher recruitment. There was also some good discussions about collaborating with CTE and tech programs for classified staff. Develop a robust advertising and recruitment program. Develop a teacher pathway at Jeff West to encourage students to enter the teaching profession. That also gives a much better way for us to include internships at all levels, especially starting at pre-K all the way through. Explore childcare options for staff. Make the application process easier and more seamless. Something that Amy Mitchell's already looking at is just different platforms out there that are just downloadable of resumes and all that. Recruitment, retention incentives, there were several of these, so I just kind of, you know, from longevity pay for classified staff after a certain number of years, reduced fees for employee students, bonuses for earning different types of certifications, retirement incentives. So that's just kind of the first kind of summary of what came from that one on strategies underneath staff recruitment retention. We've got 3 done. We will condense them, put them all on one after we finish the 4th.
Who's invited to the last one? District leadership team?
Yeah, the district leadership team, which can kind of be confusing because
Not building, but district.
it's district, so that's the group that met with you at the Gambinos. But also, we're going to invite all the site council members to this one. Again, we want a group of people that are closest to the kids and know them the best.
And will you be leading that or will?
Bart Schwartz will actually be back to facilitate that one. He was the one that was at the first one. He was actually on a plane, heading to a conference last week at the one that when we did. But then, like I said, we will also, I know, everybody wants Bart back, but, we will also start that one with a little bit of a presentation of information and letting you, that's why we're doing it last. Where are we academically? You know, just giving you an idea of what our numbers, our student performance, where we're at. That way, when you go into the conversation, you kind of have more of a informed as a group. So
2025 budget estimate.
another handout. So this is just kind of an Excel. So in order anticipated new revenue next year, it's a little easier now to anticipate that because of the way they do the school finance formula. And it really comes down to student head count and their weightings, like free lunch weighting, transportation, all of that, times what we expect the new base state aid per pupil to be. Last year at this time, we were looking at $630,000. This year, we're looking at $334,000. If you jump to the bottom, here's why. Our enrollment, if you look at the year COVID hit, we were at 826. There shouldn't be dollar signs down there as difference, but we're at 826 students. After COVID hit, we dropped to 792. The next year in 22-23, so we lost 34 students. But statewide, there were like over 16,000 kids didn't come back to school the year after COVID. They liked staying at home. They liked remote. So we gained in 22-23, we gained 25 of those kids back. Last year, we were up another 18 kids. We were at 835. So you can always use the current year or prior year. Well, we went up 18 kids and the base state aid went up. So that generated about 630,000.
This month a little bit smaller than that.
This year, we're down 9 kids. But we also turned away 10 kids because we have class sizes that are maxed out. We had 2 families of 4. It just happened both of those families had kids in classes that were maxed out number-wise. So we should be around even. And now every year it's going to go like this. But, you know, we could have been. But the effect of being down 9 students, the base is still going up, but we're only generating half of the new revenue that we did the year prior. So that's why, and again, this is just an estimate, and the legislature's not even done.
Right.
And the school finance task force I'm on, we met last week. There are some of them that would not like to give us anything, but anyway, So if you go back up and look at, well, what do we anticipate next year? The elephant in the room is health insurance. We already know next year, health insurance is gonna cost us about $100,000. That's a third of our new revenue. Property insurance, luckily, it's not going to be the 60,000 like it was 2 years ago. Right now, it's, we're looking at around 20,000. We won't know that until about May. Fuel, we're anticipating it going up some. Extra duty cost, those are things, the board negotiated a couple years ago. I didn't see it last year, because I had to do the budget first until I figured out what this additional, we do pay for going out before school, after school with, buses and stuff. You don't think that adds a lot, but it's about 30,000, so I gotta set that aside. We have one retirement that the board negotiated, that the incentive to retire by November, they get that, but they get it the next year. That way we can budget for it. So that's that one. We're looking at a letters trainer, that's Lindsay Leakey. So I had to set some aside for that, because will be certified after the summer, and she will be our district letters trainer, which will be a lot of extra duty of her going and training new teachers, going and mentoring trainers. And then I set 70,000 for Jeff West preschool startup. I hope that's high. We're just waiting on enrollment numbers. Right now, I think we're at 50. We don't know how many of those are going to qualify for at risk, which is the state funding. So that leaves 85,000. If you look at some savings, you can see there we have 3 teachers, including Rick Hummel that left us at the middle of the year. What we've saved there, total savings 32,000. So you add that back. So I just want to make sure that as we start going into next year and start, budget planning for the new year, we start putting things on paper about what's the cost, because, I don't, last year we added a 4th section of 1st grade and a nurse, and I just don't, we don't have that extra $300,000 looking next year that we did coming into this year. So I will keep you posted on this. We just got our audit 2 weeks ago. So I know that 826.9, we're guaranteed next year what we had this year. So that way I know, kind of by the base and our weightings, we know about how. Now that's general and supplemental general added together. The general goes up, and whatever it goes up, we'll get 33% in the supplemental, add them together, and that's how I came to 334. So thoughts or questions on that?
You still in lease agreement?
I do want to add one thing. We have a neighbor that number is $500.
Oh,
And we have some other neighbors that number's negative. So even though it's only half, it'll go like this.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of districts that's a negative number, and we have some close to us. We're looking at
Being on negotiations.
when people retire, not refilling. I mean, it's just a different, so we're in good shape. I don't want to paint that,
No.
oh, we're down 300,000. We're in good shape. It's, we can only look to the, I won't say which direction, but we can look certain directions and say, wow, we're okay.
Yeah.
It's all relative.
Yep.
Keystone lease agreement.
So we sent in May of 24, so last May, this board sent a letter to Keystone letting them know that they can keep their offices, administrative offices at Keystone for an indefinite period of time. We don't know how long it's going to take to get the building constructed in Oskaloosa. We thought, well, maybe they'll need to stay there for 6 months. Well, it could be they need to be there all year long. There's just too many, you know, and then what do they do with their custodian? While they're still using it, who's gonna pay utility? So Doug Anderson and I just said, why don't we sit down and just come up with something? But we first wanted to visit with each board to make sure you're agreeable. What if we looked at, let's not charge them rent. Let's just be co-tenants. We're gonna take over utilities. They're gonna provide custodian, you know, because we moved into it now. So we've got capital outlay stuff that they're not going to be doing, but they'll do custodial. And if many of you will remember 2 years ago, there was a number out there anticipated when they leave, we would pay to cover capital outlay maintenance. And Doug and I are just like, why don't we just cohabitate and not write checks back and forth to each other? We don't know if it's going to be 12 months. We don't know if it's going to be 8 months. And so, but before Doug and I sat down and started drafting something that's appealing to the Keystone board and this board, we just wanted you to have some thoughts on that. Say, yeah, it's just, you know, we don't charge them rent at the end. They don't. We'd have to prorate the 76,000 down to, okay, well then it should be 58, and then another year it should, and we just say, hey, let's just smile at each other when we walk in every day, and just, so we just, before we spent time working on that, we just wanted to.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Poor Dave went through and did all those numbers to get to that number.
Oh, yeah, pulled up now. It's what an annual depreciation dollar amount is.
Your handy spreadsheet.
So-
Don't ever lose that.
But if we can cohabitate and agree, I think that would be awesome.
Absolutely.
You know, you think about it's costing us money too.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bigger,
We're cutting expenses.
Yep.
But they're gonna continue paying the custodians.
Yeah, so the custodian
Even though the
won't,
custodian will take care of the whole building.
yes, because he won't have a building to
Yeah. Yeah.
oversee for maybe another year. So they could be there all year.
Yeah.
We start, you know, utilities, we're gonna have to pay utilities whether they're there or not. So Doug and I were just gonna sit down and say, you know, in the end, it probably won't be too far out. We don't charge, you know, now we gotta figure out, well, what's the rent? Because they're only, we were just like, what if we just hung out together for a year?
I like that.
I don't think it's a bad idea to get something in writing to that.
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But before Doug and I sat down and tried to put the details of
Yeah.
what that would look like,
We wanted to make sure we were.
we wanted to make sure to see
Okay.
where the boards were.
I'll be curious where Keystone Board lands on it. Let's see. Hopefully everybody's agreeable.
It's on Jeff
So-
West's side, so I appreciate it.
So, all right, Doug and I'll start working on that.
All right, any questions on that?
No.
German exchange program request.
So each year, we have our students go to Germany, and then the next year, German exchange students come. So this board in the past has covered either some flight expenses for our sponsors, or when they're here, we covered, for them to go bowling, or just, and every year it's just kind of. So what I would ask is that instead of every year us trying to bring you an exact dollar amount and them trying to back into flight tickets or how many kids are going bowling, whatever, if the board would consider just approving each year, the board will financially support the German exchange program. And then the administration, which would be Rhonda and I, we would just work with them and say, okay, this year they're here, you know, and it's normally around 1,200 to 1,800, depending on whatever, that, the motion would be that the board supports the German exchange program, and then Rhonda and I work out. That way we don't have to bring to you every year, would you approve these tickets? And it's Russian trying to, like, I don't know the dollar amount yet because flights change. All that. So,
Motion for that.
I move the board approve financial support for the German exchange program as determined by administration.
Second.
All in favor? 7. Classified pay on inclement weather.
So you know, if I spoke faster, we'd already been out of this meeting. I apologize that
I appreciate
I
it.
speak slow.
That's why I did it.
So this is a request. Basically, you know, we've had probably a week's worth of inclement weather. At the start of the year, I budgeted for everybody to work a full year. Our hourly people, our classified staff, currently they can claim half the day, but then they'd have to claim the other half using personal or whatever. And a lot of them don't do it because they get, you know, whatever. So even though the district makes a little bit of money or saves a little, we're saving at the expense of our staff that make the least amount.
Yeah.
And I've already budgeted for that. I emailed cross superintendents to see what others do, probably half and half. The half that don't have their leadership reasons. But I'd say I probably wouldn't want to work for someone. But anyway, my recommendation is that classified staff on inclement weather days, we just pay them as if they came in.
I do, I agree.
It's
Hands down.
I'll make that motion.
well, and then the ones that do come in, we could either do a time and a half or let them pick a nice day to take that time. And we possibly give them the option because we do have some that essential, they have to shovel, they have to get, they have to come in,
Be here.
and we can compensate them
I like that.
a different way.
We'll say Keystone just approved for this year, to add a third snow day. They only cover 2 snow days for their employees, so they added just for 1 year
Real quick.
to do a third one, and the Keystone board is pushing to look into adding more snow days as well. So that would actually set us apart from probably several districts around here that we take care of our people, and
Absolutely.
I like it a lot.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is this going
forward or are we making it retroactive?
We would, well, it's up to the board, but we're ready to make it retroactive for this year. So of the possible week that they've missed, Amy can go back and that's what I would recommend.
But it would have to be decided on year after year, so like, is that what you're asking? Or you-
No, just for this year, or we
Yeah,
got
just
for the
this year,
5
we're gonna
days or
take-
4, whatever.
We would go
Is there a
back
million snow days?
and compensate them for the ones that they've missed.
Yes.
And then moving forward, we just don't worry about an inclement weather,
We know they're good. We're gonna
late
pay.
start or whatever. We hired you, it wasn't their fault. And part of the hard thing is it's always during months where it's a short work, the holidays. You know, we've got
Conferences or.
storms coming, you know, and you got spring break, so anyway.
No, I love that. Hands down.
Dave,
I'll make a motion to, I didn't read how it was presented. That we retroactively compensate classified pay for inclement weather days. That's presented.
You wanna add and for the classified
Yeah.
staff that come in on those days to have equal
Yeah,
hours
I love that.
learned at a later date, that's part of what's written down.
And that.
Get all that in.
Eric, you got
it's
it?
already there.
Retroactively and going forward.
First, second.
Second.
All.
I'm excited about it.
That's one. I love that.
Pick an Aaron, it doesn't matter.
That was a fun
Same
one.
person.
Find something good.
Crisis planning meeting for grant application.
So I know John is on the crisis team. We're going to pull that group together, including county, like emergency response or law enforcement. There's a grant that we want to explore around safe and secure schools for things like security cameras. You know, I went and got a couple bids from companies that can come and film all the entrances and exits. Communication devices between the district and emergency management. Just look at a lot of the things that would fall under the area of safe and secure and try to put that into a comprehensive package to submit a grant. We just want to get the group together because I won't think of it all. There's just some things that, so we're gonna probably towards the end of March, unless someone's wants to be a chauffeur for me for a while. But I just want to let the board know that we're going to pull the group together and try and come up with what are the different types of things that are big ticket items, but yet we could do maybe to put into a grant to submit. Some of the challenges we have right now is federal grants. Will they be available? But I think so far we're still seeing some of those out there. So anyway, we'll call a crisis team meeting together towards the after spring break to try and brainstorm the different types of projects that we could possibly submit in that grant. So that was just more of an update.
Kelly brought attention, did we make a motion on the German exchange?
Yeah.
Yeah, David. Just blacked out
Yes.
for a second. Okay, all right, just making sure.
No.
Everything's fine.
Any questions on that?
Sounds great.
Set a date for the March special board meeting, board goals, student success and preparedness.
So we have spring break, so we're looking at, first option would be Monday, the 24th. Second option, because they moved the concert, would be the Wednesday, the 26th.
I'm open.
I would really prefer the Monday if I had any influence in it at all.
Hold on. Let me look.
You can.
You can have
Lucky.
Mine's easy, the first Monday, second Tuesday, and third Wednesday.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you got that Wednesday now, right?
I have it down already for the 24th.
Everybody good?
You said the March 24th.
March
24th.
24th.
Okay.
Okay,
be 5:30.
so we need a.
Appetizers.
Will there be
Dinner.
food?
There will be heavy snacks.
Yes.
No crab claws or.
We get a
Yeah, it's
motion.
lit, we can have.
Do we need action on that?
Says
Just at a meeting.
I make a motion that we schedule our board goals meeting for Monday, March 24th at 5:30.
We can post that on Facebook, ASAP.
I second.
Second, all in favor? 7-0. We have no student issues. So. Faculty, our facilities, equipment and planning, nothing.
Do you have the executive session in front of you, Erin?
Somebody have it to read it. Anybody have it memorized?
You would be the only one that would be close.
Wouldn't it be, I motion to move into executive session
We're
for,
we're at personnel, but how long do we need for executive session?
For personnel. Probably 15 minutes.
I get motion for 15 minutes.
I make a motion to move to executive session for
Non-elected personnel.
non-elected person.
Include that part. Duration.
I remember
you got
the.
A duration of 15 minutes,
There
starting
we
at
There we go.
8 p.m.
I had to read it.
Do 8 p.m. so everyone can have like a little.
8 p.m. to resume at 8:15.
Second.
All in favor? 7-0.
Big one is the reason for the motion. That's the most important.
Yeah.
Have you been? We only had one. Yeah.
But that's a different item, so we can go back out.
Do we need to?
Doesn't ring a bell. It seemed like that was the one you don't mind.
Do we
They'll
need
fall
to?
into the same number.
I mean, not that.
Yeah, well.
Crazy. I'll stay up for you, Aaron.
You're supposed to be in a conference at trick or treat.
You're a deep thought.
Now we're going in for negotiation.
How many minutes do y'all leave? I like it.
You gave me the sheet, if you want it.
Yeah.
Okay. You ready? I move that the Board of Education. Only, correct. No, okay. Go into executive session at 8:16 for the purpose of discussing matters relating to employer-employee negotiations, whether or not in consultation with the representative or representatives of the body or agency to protect the district's right to the confidentiality of its negotiating position and the public interest, and the Board of Education reconvene into open session at 8:31 in this room. Okay.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
7-0.
John, okay.
That was a lot.
Try and get at least 1 second on everything.
Were you following the directions?
No, I got so deep on that one.
I did not have.
What?
I did not have motions because those two came in,
That's a lot. Wait,
yes.
yeah, okay.
Oh, wait. I move to accept the 2 resignations as presented and the 1 contract to approve it as presented.
Second. All in favor? 7-0.
I'm like, where's the name on
Yeah, Aaron, can you do one more for personnel for 5 minutes? Executive
Okay.
session, yeah.
I move to enter executive session for a period of 5 minutes at 8:34 PM to resume at 8:39 PM. In this folder.
Second.
All in favor? 7-0.
So how do we build a good team? Is it? Never mind, yeah, we'll get to that.
I can help. It was actually one of those built when I was in high school.
Okay.
That was back when you could build crossbows and.
Yeah.
Oh, this. Okay. Ready? I would like to make a motion to extend the building principals contract and the superintendent's contracts for 1 year.
Second.
All in favor? 7-0.
Woo-hoo. You guys sound great.
All right,
Your turn.
just a few updates. We will be communicating and ready to go with the new middle school drop-off pickup plan. And Tim is coordinating with Matt on digging it out and everything and having it all prepped and ready over spring break. ATM Concrete will come in and pour everything. They're also doing by the weight room where the dump truck pulls in, backs up, those front tires have torn up. We're gonna dig that out too and re-pour that. But we're excited to,
So with that being said, no, I'm not, we're donating, we're not being paid for that.
Oh, we know.
I figured.
I just want to make sure
Yeah,
everybody knew
no.
that.
well, I didn't wanna say that because I
Well-
thought maybe we'll get a bill.
Well, I don't think it's right to be being paid when you're on the voting board. So,
But yes,
I know, I'm
that'll be
in the
another-
office.
that'll be another one of those shout outs, but thanks, that we have people locally and in the room that are willing to donate. But we'll have that all done and I really, I know that there might be some things on social media or whatever. I hear probably more concerns about the middle school pickup in the afternoon, concerns with kids running around and stuff, so we'll give it a shot. And I'm sure we'll make adjustments as we go along.
When you think about it, it's exactly like the elementary school does it. There's never any concern of a kid getting almost run over. It's the exact same scenario. It's just you're going like this instead of down a block and
It'll
be fine.
We'll have 5 pickup sections where they pull up, load 5 vehicles, move out, load up, and
It'll be fine.
the parents, the kids, it'll be,
Good.
I would say in 2-3 days,
Yeah.
we'll be good.
So when does track start to, when does that?
That'll really help
I see
eliminate
the
a
day.
huge
The 20
amount of
minutes,
track
Is
kids.
that what you said?
it would be nice to start it with a smaller group.
Well, yeah, track will be up and running by then, right?
March 20, I mean,
Yeah.
it'll be the first day back from spring break.
Oh.
Will be track practice, so the kids won't be getting
But the
picked
track
up.
students will be held in the gym. That
Right,
is where they will, like, they'll dress out and then they'll go into the gym and they'll do their stretching and warm-ups, and that'll give me time to get all the like the other kids picked up, the buses loaded and everything out before the kids go out and load the vans to run.
it'll
Even
be
now, it's pretty
helpful.
clear in 15 minutes.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
just those 15
Well,
minutes.
it's when it's
are-
nice out, kids walk too, so you don't have as many parents right there when it's really yucky out. So,
Sounds
So
great.
we're ready to get that going.
love
Just an update, something, and we're gonna. Aaron ordered for people that work here for years and then retire. We've ordered flags. The American flags with a triangle.
it.
Aaron's working on a real nice. Resolution type thing that we've reached out, said to like Steve Buss, Judy Heisey, that we're gonna fly a flag in front of the building where they taught at for one day in their honor. We'll have a nice resolution, and then at the end of retirement, when we have their reception, they'll have a flag to display that says on this date, it was flown in front of the high school or elementary in your honor. And just something that we thought be nice to start for our retired people to have
Tradition, that's cool.
something for put on their mantle that it was, and they get to pick the date that it's flown. They actually get to pick the flagpole if they. Judy would like to have it flown at the football field on field day. She can pick that day and that flagpole, so.
Cool.
I just thought I'd let you know we're starting something to where, we fly a flag in our retired people's.
I
I
love
like it. That's great.
I am reaching out to some companies I got names of 3 companies that do signage. Just thinking about the preschool, it's gonna need branded, so we'll be getting bids. That way when people pull up, they recognize this is the Jeff West Preschool, so we'll be working on that. Hopefully I can bring you some samples for you to choose. Hey, we like that. We like the way that looks. We have a tiger cub being worked on. We'll bring it just to say, hey, what do you think of our Jeff West Tiger, what it looks like when it's a cub for our preschool kids? We'll be bringing that at some point, but they're working on that. But just to get some rebrand the preschool. So hopefully I'll be bringing some things to you in the next couple of minutes. Then just the last thing, thinking about the preschool and all the furniture and all the equipment and all that, when you look at furniture, this is expensive. So I reached out on superintendent's listserv. All right, folks, I know some of you have storage units, so Wes is gonna get with Washburn Rural as a storage unit. We've got like 5 districts that said, hey, come dig through it. We closed this preschool or we reorganized. So we've got 4 or 5 districts have already reached out and said, hey, we could probably, just the tables where you put the sand and those stations and chairs and stuff like that, just to help us ease into that first couple years. We can build on with some stuff later on. But I'll let you know, we'll be thanking some districts here before too long, but we have 4 or 5 districts already said, yes, come look at our storage units. We have stuff. You think about, you collect it over time. So Wes is gonna get the Washburn Rural and go visit with them Friday, and we've got a few others, so we'll be getting back with you, cause we'll have some thank yous for some districts, so. Other than that,
Anybody got anything else? Adjourned.
Thank you.
Is there anybody left on this?
Good job. I never know.
Thank you for joining us.